Brennan, are you there?
Mr. Russo, what's up? How are you?
Hey, buddy.
What's going on?
All right. And I want to make sure we got this up-and-coming emerging artist. I don't know, you may not have heard of him yet, but Beeple, are you there?
What up? How we doing, everybody?
There he is. So let me start by saying thank you for joining, people. I'm Nick Adler, a.k.a. Nicky Ads. You have Brennan Russo. You have the MNTGE team. Sean Wotherspoon will be jumping on real soon as well. We've been doing this every week. It started out as just a fun little project to talk a little bit about Web3 and streetwear and collectibles and things that, we were having fun in our own lives collecting. And, it developed into a project, which is called MNTGE. And it's now we've built a community of 1,000 strong. And this weekly Spaces has grown to be something that is something beyond what I imagined. And the guests have been becoming more and more, just bigger and bigger and bigger. So to have you on here is awesome. And it's very full circle for me, because I don't know if I ever told you this, and I'm sure this is probably a lot of people have had a similar experience, but I think it was winter of, pandemic winter, maybe 2020. This is early in the kind of emergence of NFTs, and it was Clubhouse days. And I was sitting in upstate New York in a really snowy house, and I was listening to a Clubhouse, and you were on. And this is before the big sale. This is right around when you were releasing the Everydays, okay. the big collection. And I was listening to you talk, and that was my red pill moment when I was like, oh, there's something here. I got to pay attention. And after this conversation, I remember so much of it. Actually, some things I was going to talk about tonight, I actually learned then, and it stayed in the back of my head. So I have to send you. I have to say, it's really cool to come full circle, but I have to thank you for being kind of the main initial spark for me to go and kind of ruin my life in Web3.
Yeah. We all had that person that we can blame for being in Web3 now. Unfortunately, I am that person for a lot of people, I guess.
You've destroyed a lot of lives, man.
You destroyed a lot of lives. We destroyed the planet. We destroyed a lot of lives. It's going great. It's going great so far.
I love it. Well, look, I ask this to everybody. And it's kind of a simple question, but, for those who don't know, and we're on Twitter Spaces, so a lot of people do. So for the 0.01% who don't, who is Beeple?
Sure. So I am a digital artist who's been making digital art for the last 20 years and sort of slowly growing an audience over that time, until the point where in 2021, a big sale happened with Christie's and kind of jump-started things in the kind of space here. But it's something where I was not sort of into crypto before this. And so a lot of this is very new to me as well. And obviously, being a digital artist, there was no way to have people sort of truly collect my work in a meaningful way, similar to paintings or sculptures or photography or anything else. And so that whole world of sort of collecting is very new to me as well. But it's been obviously such a crazy, just insane ride since then. And I've learned so much and met so many cool new people. And we're just trying to build some version of the future here, I guess.
It's crazy how many new people you met, right? I say it a lot, but...
I met more people in the last 2 years than probably in the last 15 years before that. Easily.
I know. And they've all been like-minded. Everyone's thinking about this in the same way of, how to use this tech and how to be at these events and the experience. And you and I have gotten to know each other pretty well. And I have to say, it's usually my first question if it's an NFT New York or an Art Basel or whatever blockchain. I'm always like, well, are people is Mike and Scott going? And then I'm like, okay, if they're going, I'm in. Scott being your brother, who's rad. I actually told him I was like, you should jump up tonight. He's like, no, I'm good.
Doesn't he really hates Twitter and social media? He definitely hates it, which is, I think, good. I feel like it's good to have both sort of like perspectives, because I feel like it's so easy to get into this sort of like crypto Twitter echoverse with this shit. I think it's good to have people outside of the echo chamber who are kind of grounding you back to reality. Here.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, spending too much time here is crazy. I have to say, even doing the spaces weekly now, it takes a lot out of me, man. It's like my nerves they go kind of wild before we jump on here. So to see people who are amazing doing this every day, it's incredible. What are the Faroks and the Ryan Carsons of the world? These guys are. Yeah. It takes a lot of energy to invest so much time.
100%. It's like you're sort of like all of these people now, which I think is super cool. Like all these people basically have their own little talk radio shows now, where anybody can call in and immediately become part of the show. And so it's, I think a really cool way to sort of just stay connected with everybody in a different way. And I think these conversations, you can have much more nuanced conversations when you're talking to people directly versus just 140 characters back and back trying to gotcha bullshit. I think it's just like people come into these with a more open mind to like have a discussion versus just trying to older person or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And one phone, one quiet space, it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish as opposed to having to do a podcast, which takes, I think, a lot of work to produce. This is a nice thing to just say, hey, like, we're going to be live at this hour. Let's go.
Yeah.
So before you were Beeple digital NFT superstar, I had heard your name through the music business a little bit.
Sure.
And, friends of mine in terms of doing album covers, in my background, having worked with musicians for most of my career, I've crossed paths with a ton of artists, graphic designers, etc., who were kind of part of the world.
Sure.
But this current movement has helped elevate them and help us celebrate them for the work, as opposed to the work that they might have been doing in collaboration with another artist. So, take us through that a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about the history, because I know a little bit, but not that much.
Yeah, I think, I did a lot of work prior to this for like concert visuals and sort of like stuff in the music industry. And the way that I got started with that was in 2010, I started releasing these VJ clips, which are basically roughly 10 to 30 second little short animated abstract loops that anybody could use. They were released under Creative Commons, and anybody could use them with no credit to me, just however they want for any commercial, non-commercial work. And those became very popular very fast. Lots of people were downloading them and using them. And people started reaching out to me then for sort of like custom concert visual work. And to the point where, prior to the NFT stuff, I was doing visuals for the Super Bowl, and I did a bunch of stuff for Zed and Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber, and got to work on a huge amount of different shows here. And so it was always something, though, to your point, like you were saying, where the artist was kind of in the background, or many times not even sort of like credited, just because the music was the thing that they were, was the main sort of product, I guess. And I think that's what's been really cool to see with this sort of like Web3 and NFT, is more sort of like recognition of the actual kind of like artists who are providing the visuals for these things. And I think you're going to continue to see more of that in the future as people sort of like see the value in digital art.
And you were doing the everydays at the same time?
Yeah, the everyday started in 2007. So this was like before this. I was doing the everydays and kind of like slowly building up an audience. And the VJ clips was one other thing besides the everydays that helped grow that audience, because all of the VJs sort of like, know me, and these clips became sort of so popular that they were not cool to use, that it was like anybody could just use the Beeple clips. Like, that's like cheating. Like, it was like, yeah.
Have you ever thought about bringing it back?
VJ clips. I've not done any VJ clips for a while. And that's kind of like how how it's always kind of been with my career. Like I'll sort of do something for a while and then I kind of get bored of it in a way and then sort of move on to kind of a different type of work. I used to do a bunch of like short films. And that was another way that I had sort of like grew an audience. But I haven't done a short film for a while. And I think I don't know. It's just, I think there's so many different kind of ways to express things through digital art that it's like, I do things for a while and then it's sort of like, and then I kind of like something else will come along. And obviously now with sort of physical art and sort of building out the space and sort of all the NFT stuff, like, I don't know when the next time I'll sort of like do that stuff is, just because I feel like there's so many other things that I'm kind of more interested in right now.
No, it's, I get it. And then with the everydays, I had a question because last time I saw you was right after you did the infamous crypto dick butt.
Oh boy.
Which has I think really has established itself as its own piece. But yesterday's was pretty epic too. So I feel like I zone in right around the time you drop really epic pieces. Please walk me through yesterday. Like what's going on? Why don't you set the tone as to what it is first?
Okay, so yesterday's piece was the picture is a picture, and people, if they're not on work computers, can go look it up, but it's a picture of Tucker Carlson banging a green M&M. For those who are like, where in the fuck is this coming from? Apparently the M&Ms changed the boots, changed the shoes on like the green M&M, and then like Tucker Carlson and all these freaking like right-wing nut jobs are like reading into this that this means that I don't know that this green M&M's a lesbian or something, and like it turned into this ridiculous bullshit. And then actually they just yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, announced that they're like shelving they're kind of like, not using the candies anymore as like spokespeople, and that they're using Maya Rudolph as like a thing. And I think it's going to be some people are speculating that it's some Super Bowl, sort of marketing ploy here. But yeah, it's just a bizarre thing. And to me, it's another like data point of like everything has to be a fucking battle, when it's just like, man, it's just different shoes on a fucking cartoon character designed to sell you fucking sugar treats. Like, what are we talking about? Who the fuck gives a fuck what shoes it has, my lord?
You're doing God's work, man. I think that you're bringing attention to the things that we need to know. And I was not familiar until I saw the piece yesterday, so I had to look it up. So when you're doing these pieces, do you ever get is there ever writer's block? Do you ever come to a day where you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do today?
Oh, 100%. Dude, you have any ideas? I still have to do it tonight. I got 5 hours here. I have no idea. And that's the thing. I think people think I've got like a million ideas, and it's just like, oh, next, and then the next day I'm going to do this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, dude, that's why I do shit that happened that day, because I have no other ideas. I don't have 365 ideas for this year, like plotted all out. I have no ideas for any days in the future. I literally have to come up with something tonight. I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Well, hopefully we can use this space as an experience, as a social workshop in art to help make sure that you get the everyday piece, the MNTGE everyday piece done.
Yes, if anybody has any ideas, I'm always very open to suggestions. And honestly, there's been many times people have suggested stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. And then I did it. Like, it's definitely, I'm always open for an idea here.
You saw, we were talking about it a little earlier, in terms of, again, I don't know how much you want to get into it, but, our mutual friend, Kevin Rose, today that was pretty fucked up, right?
Yeah.
He got hacked or fished for some serious valued NFTs.
Yeah, I just saw that. I don't know. I just like texted him to be like, dude, what the fuck? I just saw that happen. But yeah, it's definitely. I just, as we were talking about before, I feel like you're just waiting for your fucking turn till your number's up, till you just let down your guard for half a second, freaking click that one wrong link.
I did it. I mean, I did it. I got one from a PFP project. This was like over the summer. It was so stupid, man. All day long in Twitter, I get added all day. Hey, check out this cool project, and they tag me and 50 other people.
Yeah.
And some crazy reason, I would caught me at the wrong time. I was sitting in my house. I was waiting for a friend, and I just clicked the button. And it was to mint something. I remember the project. I don't want to say what it was, but I was to mint something, and it had copy pasted the whole mint site, and I clicked it, and my wallet popped up, and I clicked approve. So I approved the transaction, right? And funny enough, I'd had it. I had my these particular JPEGs in a hot wallet. I normally use a cold wallet, but I'd moved them into this hot wallet for purposes of KYCing it.
Sure.
And it was just bad luck. And I think that the program read what the most expensive JPEG was in the wallet, and it took 3 mutant apes at the time. It was like the height. So just I felt that gut punch. But I always say, like, it was the best. In a way, thankfully nothing's happened since then, and it was I needed it to know how to navigate this crazy shit.
Well, it's just, it's so easy. I mean, you look at this thing with like Kevin Rose. Kevin Rose has founded multiple tech companies. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy is quite tech savvy, and he's been around the space for a second here. And even he just got fucked here. Like, it's the security thing is the thing that I really think needs to be massively improved before this truly goes mainstream. Because again, if people like that are getting fucked, the average person literally stands absolutely no fucking chance.
Yeah, and
we're talking about people who are extremely tech savvy.
Yeah, no, I know.
A mistake.
But what's so crazy is most of these, what I've experienced, most of these scams, these phishing scams, are simple. It's not even like, it's complete social engineering. They trick you. So it's not super complex. It's so stupid, and we fall for it every time. And a lot. So I'm super sympathetic. I hopefully everything works out there. But I don't know. That's something to think about. So the music stuff was always been something that resonated with me. And then I'm spending a lot of time on fashion, right? That's something that I find has a lot of opportunity to disrupt. I think technology. You were talking to Gary V last week, and he was just saying if it hasn't been touched digitally yet, Web3 will be that place to do it. And been thinking about a lot of that with clothing and vintage clothing and digital wearables and provenance and upcycled clothing, all that kind of stuff. But I also know that and this is what I learned 2 years ago on that Clubhouse, or 3 years, or whatever it was. You have worked with like Louis Vuitton in the past. Like, give me a little bit into the world where you've kind of collaborated on the fashion side. I'd love to get your thoughts around the world of wearability, knowing your work with 10KTF and all that.
Yeah. So through in 2018, Louis Vuitton reached out, and they were like, hey, we want to use some of the everydays on the women's spring line, the 2019 spring line. And at that point, like, I knew so little about fashion, like nothing. Not that I know very much now.
Well, I mean, that's a surprise to me, because when I see you, I'm like, this guy screams like fashion.
With my fucking, I would say most of my clothes, like most of my entire wardrobes are less than like a Louis Vuitton like scarf or something, like value wise.
But that's part of what makes you so special to me, is like somebody who, fame is weird, right? Like, you've become famous. We'll get back to the Louis Vuitton stuff, but you've become famous pretty quickly, like globally famous, right? And it's a weird thing. We've talked about this. So, but what's really perfectly packaged about you is that you're really prolific. You're incredible as an artist. You're an enigma, but you also have this style that is just like, it screams Beeple. Like, I would not expect Beeple to look any different.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I do feel like I fit the mold of somebody who would make these pictures, because I look kind of like a normal sort of like run-of-the-mill serial killer. And so it's just like, oh yeah, of course these are the pictures that this serial killer would make. But yeah, so they reached out, and at that point, again, knowing so little about fashion, I literally thought Louis Vuitton was like some dude who was still alive. Like, I thought he was like some like designer who was like 70 or whatever, and he was still alive. And a quick Wikipedia search revealed that he has in fact been dead for 150 years or whatever. So I just to give you a little like background on how little I sort of like knew about fashion. And so they reached out and they were like, oh, we're going to use the everydays. And I'm like, for the like women's clothes, like that just seems so bizarre. And I'm kind of, I've been around the industry for a bit. And so I know that people, oh, let's do this, and things get canceled. And so I was sort of like, okay, I mean, if you guys want to do it, like, let's do it. But I was very much expecting this to kind of hit the cutting room floor, that there was some intern at Louis Vuitton who was, a super fan or whatever. Oh, let's use some Beeple stuff on the clothes. And like, this was not going to actually happen. And so it did end up happening. And I was super shocked. And my wife and I went to the like opening, and I'm still sitting there thinking like, this is not going to happen. Like this didn't actually use anything. It'll get cut last second or whatever. And I had no idea how they used any of the images. And this is at the like Louvre in Paris or whatever. It's just insane. And the first model comes out, and she's got giant right on the front of her shirt, like pretty much just like a t-shirt of the everyday. And it was like, oh my God, they fucking used it. Like, and I assumed if they were going to use any of the artwork, it'd be like in the lining of a shoe or some shit, or some like weird tiny little detail. And I was like, oh wow, this is like pretty much front and center on this like collection. So it was just a like amazing experience to see my work sort of translated into that domain. And then we did these series of window installations with S. Devlin, and it was just like a amazing experience all around. But something that taught me and really kind of like spurred an interest in fashion that I truly never had, and made me look a little closer at these fashion brands. And it's like, wow, they're doing such interesting forward-looking designs with this stuff. And I've been a huge fan ever since. And it's something that I think is very much going to be disrupted by Web3, because I think if you think about sort of long term, we kind of started out with like fashion kind of started out with like couture, where everything was this sort of like one-off thing. And then it became sort of like mass market, where, you'd make 1 million of the same sort of like product. But I think now it's going to go to a place where you see Louis Vuitton and you see these fashion houses release collections where there is rarity built into the collection itself. So they might release 100 of the same shirt, but then 5 of them have a red collar or something. And those are the like truly rare, unique pieces. And people who really know fashion know that those are super collectible sort of like pieces. And I think sort of merging the collecting world and the like sort of like fashion world even more, I think is going to be something that Web3 is going to really sort of like enable.
No, I think it's a lot of what we're trying to tackle. I'm thinking about, I think, John Wexler, who's a friend, and he was on this this show, and he spent a long time at Adidas and working directly with artists and musicians. And, he had this thought that, he thinks that there'll come a day when, our kids or our kids' kids are just saying, wow, like you wore the same thing that your friends wore. We go to this place where really everything is a one-on-one or extremely rare.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely think that's what it'll be. I'd be like, wait, so everybody just wore the same T-shirt? Like, you just like clones of each other? That's so bizarre. Or like, you didn't have any ability to customize the clothes before you bought it. Like, I believe that will be another massive thing where it's sort of like, okay, I want this basic t-shirt or this basic shirt, but then you have some options to sort of like customize it to exactly what you want and make it truly unique for you. And I think just living in a world where these possibilities exist, I think is something that people in the future will very much take for granted, and they'll look at the way we dressed all the same as being like bizarre.
And did you, when the collection that you worked on, was that actually on sale? Did that get sold through stores, or was that more?
Yeah, that was the regular sort of spring ready to wear line of clothes. Yeah, it was in stores all over the world, and we went to a bunch of stores and saw it, and it was, you know, super cool to see it just all over the world in these stores. But yeah, this was the regular like women's spring line.
And then have those pieces since become, do you still see them out there? Have this sort of collectors dug in? Have you seen that kind of have a secondary story to tell?
That honestly, I don't know. I don't know as much about the collecting side with fashion, in terms of like where that would even kind of like take place. I don't know if that's something maybe on what is that one website?
Like Farfetch or something. I'm gonna buy a bunch of
StockX. I don't know if like StockX has stuff like that. Yeah, I honestly don't know that much about kind of the secondary market for stuff like that.
Well, I think I'm gonna send the team on the hunt, and we're gonna scoop some pieces up. So to the 500 or so people listening, I'll race you to it. And
yeah, dude. Honestly, I didn't even. That's the thing. I didn't even get like. I didn't get all of the pieces in the like collection. And so it's like, yeah, I really actually would love to sort of like have those. So yeah, I definitely do need to kind of dig into
I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna scan some, and then wait. Have you been 3D rigged yet? Have you created the 3D Beeple?
Yeah, I've been scanned a couple times, and I've got a couple different sort of like models of like varying quality. I don't have one really good one though. But yeah, I think it's crazy with these like AI tools now, how it's like that Tucker Carlson thing last night. It's like, okay, I need a 3D model of like Tucker Carlson's head. There's programs now, it's like literally from one image of Tucker Carlson's face, able to like generate like a 3D model of his head. And it's like, it's just crazy how these programs how fast they're progressing in terms of being able to like build out all this shit. Like I think in like 5 years it will be like so easy to get like a 3D model of yourself.
Are you spending a lot of time with Midjourney and all the various AI apps personally?
Yeah, I have played with them a bit. That's another very interesting sort of area that has exploded recently and is like changing so rapidly. I played around with a bunch of them, and I think they're super powerful and just progressing so fast. And it's interesting to see sort of the discussions around them, and there's a lot of artists obviously who are very against these, just because they don't like how they kind of scrape things and stuff. And I can definitely see that point. And I think there's definitely ways to use these AI that are very predatory. But I think there is also people who are doing genuinely interesting things with this technology that I feel is truly new and is not, trying to copy something from the past to sort of put somebody out of a job. They're trying to truly make, something you've never seen before with AI. And I think to me, that's super exciting, because that's what I'm always sort of searching for. I'm always trying to make an image that you've never seen before. And so I think these AI tools are very powerful to that end, and something that, yeah, we've been exploring quite a bit.
So I got to send you, I did a full body scan a couple months ago. It was kind of a funny story because I walked in and it was at, Brennan, what was the name of the studio that we were at?
Gentle Giant.
It was at Gentle Giant, which does a ton of, big studio films.
It was OG Star Wars.
Yeah. So
Oh, no.
we walked in and they were like, I had a black sweatshirt on and black jeans, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And they were like, well, why don't you go take your clothes off? And I was like, what? Excuse me? And they were like, it's better that way because the goal is you want to be able to use this modeling to put clothes on it, right? And I said, yeah. So I went down to like boxer shorts or what do you call them, briefs, and I stood there, and it captured it however many photos it took, and it was really, afterwards it was crazy because you see the camera really doesn't lie. So it was kind of freaky to see.
Nick's been in the gym every day since. It's amazing. It's amazing what that'll do to you.
So, but I had that, and then they prompted it to dance like, Swan Lake. It is incredible, so I'm like doing, full blown ballerina and ballet, and you jiggling, every which way, and it's a trip, man. So I need to get you that, and you could put it in the Human One.
That is definitely, I will keep that in mind. I think that that could be an interesting new direction for Human One.
So, I mean, for context, will you just kind of talk about Human One real quick, what it is? And the reason I think about Human One a lot too is because, you've taken that and you are looking at, there's wearability, there's futurism, there's astronauts. And, I even threw out the I was serious to you one day. I was like, we should put Snoop Dogg in there, right? So I'm curious to know, talk about that and kind of what you're doing with it in the future if you're building off of it.
Yeah, for sure. So Human One is another piece that I did in November 2021, and it's a kinetic sculpture along with an NFT where there's sort of this box, kind of like a refrigerator-sized real box, that has 4 screens on it, and it's sort of slowly rotating, and there's this figure walking in it, and just sort of like continually walking, and the background around them is sort of like changing. And it uses a technique that is very prevalent in the concert visual world. It's called projection mapping, where you sort of take a point and can kind of make something look 3D by sort of reprojecting a 3D image onto a sort of like surface. And I realized we could probably do that with moving screens, and that it would look pretty cool. And so my brother and the team of engineers that we work with now, I made like a little video like, oh, could we make this? And within 2 months we had made the box, and I went to Christie's, and again turned out pretty good. And it's something that I think is really interesting because this physical component and the NFT as well is something that I'm going to continue to change over the course of my life. And so this is an artwork that will continue to evolve and continue to have new sort of like meaning, which I think is much more sort of akin to the true potential of digital art, in that it does not have to be static, versus a painting or a sculpture is something that is it's kind of a statement frozen in time. There might be new meaning that is derived from it afterwards, but that's sort of kind of unintentional, in terms of what the artist was kind of trying to say, because what they said is sort of like done and sort of, finished, versus this is much more kind of like an ongoing conversation that will continue to have sort of like new meaning. And again, it's very similar to the everydays, and I don't have this all sort of like planned out. And one of the last updates to it was something with the Ukraine war, and that was something that couldn't even have been a part of the artwork when it was initially sold, because that the war hadn't started yet. And so I think, to me, that's really interesting, and I think it's something that you're going to see a lot of in the future, is art that feels more dynamic and continues to provide different sort of like meaning and provide new ways to sort of entertain and kind of like challenge us. And I think that to me is really exciting, and something we've just all, sort of barely scratched the surface of.
Hey, can I ask people? Can I ask you a question specifically on you were talking about music, and we've been seeing these things pop up on social more and more of these like electronic 3D images at these like raves where the stuff is starting to come out over the crowd. Where do you see that going? Because it's such a crazy visual to see. I haven't had the luxury of seeing it in person yet, but
wait, what? I'm not sure I've seen that. What?
look up. Look up Eric Pritz, and he's creating this whole show called Hollow, and it's all about these holograms that kind of like come out over the crowd. It's like it is the craziest thing to see, and I'm super
insane.
looking forward to it.
Insanity.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I know one of my buddies did a bunch of work with him, G-Monk, did a bunch of his visuals. He's very much always kind of been at the sort of like forefront of kind of cutting edge visuals with his like concert. So I'll have to look that up. I've not seen it yet. Do you know what sort of technology it uses to like achieve that?
I'm not sure. I really don't know the tech behind it, but Nick and I were over at ADE, and it was literally the talk of the whole festival. Everybody was like, "This is the craziest show we have ever seen." And when you see it, you'll see it. It's he has something. I think it's like a light board in front of the stage, where somehow then it gives that depth and perspective.
Huh? Yeah, I'll have to look that up. That's very interesting. I've not seen that, but yeah, it's crazy, just in the short time that I was in the sort of concert visual space and kind of concert visual world, how much things changed. And like it was just this arms race with like screens and like bigger screens, more high def screens. Okay, instead of having one screen behind them, let's have 3 screens. Okay, next year let's have fucking 5 screens. Okay, we're gonna have to put 20 screens. Like it's just crazy. Like that sort of Coachella Daft Punk pyramid thing, I feel like really kicked off this, last 10, 15 years of just absolute fucking insanity and kind of, progress with how just crazy involved and just a very, I don't know. These concerts, if you've not been to like a sort of modern EDM concert in a while, it is a experience now. It is not what to remember.
Yeah, I mean that, the live experience combined with the innovation combined with the AI, we're about to see some crazy, crazy shit. But that I think is a perfect segue to what you guys are doing in South Carolina. Like you should give us a little background on what's happening, because I'm excited. I really want to get there.
Yeah, definitely. So the space that we have in South Carolina here, we've got a pretty big studio. We've got a 50,000 square foot studio, and this is where we made like Human One and sort of like produce artwork. But it also has 2 other sort of like exhibition spaces that we're going to be opening March 11th this year, and super excited about that. One of the spaces is kind of more of a sort of traditional white wall kind of gallery type space. And we've got a bunch of sort of like physicals in there, a bunch of sculptures and a bunch of sort of paintings and other things, and kind of different ways that we've taken this digital artwork and sort of like made it physical, which I think to me is, I think there's this tension between those two that I think is just going to like get blurrier and blurrier as time goes on, and sort of there won't be this like it's either completely digital or completely physical. I think that line is just going to continue to sort of like fade away, and so being able to like have a physical space to show stuff like that, to me is super, super exciting. And then the other side of the other part of the building, we have an experiential space, which is this room that's sort of wrapped with projectors, and it's got a bunch of sort of columns with TV screens and stuff on it. And to me, that area is super, super exciting, because I think that's more akin to sort of the kind of museum of the future in terms of being able to show a bunch of different experiences, instantly, because they're sort of TV screens and can change very quickly and easily. And so we're having an opening event in March, and we've got a bunch of different artists who will be showing work at the space. And so it's just a place that I think I really want the entire sort of like community to be able to sort of like utilize. I'm really excited to be able to show other artists work, and I think having this be a meeting place for different communities in sort of like Web3 is something that I think is really exciting, and something where I think like NFT, NYC, and all these stuff, I love those, and I'll always be at those just because it's such a great place to connect with everybody. But there's so much shit going on. It's so hard to kind of manage, and you always feel like you're like, oh fuck, I missed the thing, and like go to 4 things in one night, and I think having a space that's a little bit more off the beaten path, where you can kind of have a sort of take a time to really sort of like talk and connect with people, I think is going to be really fun, and we're super excited about it.
Well, I'm saying right now to anybody who is a MNTGE pass holder, we're hosting one of our first events down there. I'm definitely gonna put that on. So
that would be amazing. Yeah,
I want to dig into like show the pieces and talk about wearability and the future of this digital wearable stuff. So you saw some of the scan. I mean, again, none of this stuff has been public, but you saw some of the content we're working with. Did you get a chance to look through it? I'd love your thoughts on kind of like how we're thinking about wearable fashion in the future, and do you have any takes on kind of what that could be?
Yeah, I think I saw the scans that you guys just sent over, and they're super cool. And I think it's such an interesting sort of new thing that I think is only going to grow. And I think the whole, we're still early, in terms of digital sort of like wearables, we're very early in that, just because it's like most people don't even, like, when you say that, they literally don't even know what those words mean. And I think they could mean a lot of different things, but I think to me this is something that will be much more, I think the digital fashion stuff is going to be hyper relevant in the future, especially when AR is more prevalent. When AR is something that is ubiquitous as smartphones are now, when we're all wearing the goggles all the time, and this is just like, you wouldn't think to leave house without your Apple glasses. I think then the wearable segment will like truly explode, because then it will be like, oh, that shirt that you're wearing is just a digital shirt, or a digital hat or something, and everybody will be able to see it instantly like any other piece of clothing. And I think that will be a massive moment for digital wearables. But I think sort of laying the groundwork now is obviously necessary.
How far, if you were to put a prediction on timeline for goggles or AR, what's your timeline?
So I personally think the goggles are not going to happen, I think, until Apple does it. I think Apple is the only company, in my opinion, that has enough clout to get you to wear a face computer. And I think about the AirPods. When the AirPods first came out, everybody was like, these are fucking stupid as hell. They look dumb as shit. You're fucking sticking Q-tips in your ear. And then, like, I don't know, a year later, 6 months later, whatever, everybody was just like, yeah, I guess they're kind of cool, whatever. And like, we all just like changed our mind and like fucking put these things in our ear. And like, I changed my mind too. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, I guess not too bad. Like, and so I think it's gonna come from Apple, to be honest.
Yeah, it's that collective consciousness thing, right? One day we just wake up and we're like, oh, that's cool. I'm into it.
Yeah. And so I think Apple's not going to do this until they know it's just going to be like a fucking smash out of the gate, like the Apple Watch, like the iPhone, like the iPad, like, the last however many products they've released. And so I think it might still be, I think, I did a bunch of work with Magic Leap and a bunch of sort of other AR kind of like concept stuff. And I think the field of view, unfortunately, is still the biggest thing holding that back. And so I think it still might be, until this is truly sort of like adopted, I would say maybe 5 years. I think it's not imminent, but again, nobody knows. That is the like most highly guarded secret at Apple, I'm quite sure, is
right. Like
glasses.
I mean, shit moves so fast. Who knew Chat GPT was going to be passing the bar exam, right?
Yeah.
This year. So
that's true. I mean, I say 5 years, but maybe it's 2 years. Maybe it's, I don't know. I mean, I think it still might be a second off, but I think it's going to be, when that happens, I think the adoption rate is going to be very quick, because I think people will see that it's sort of like, this is I think because they have a huge amount of people already making AR apps through ARKit, and Google's doing the same with AR Core. They're going to be able to come out with these glasses. Okay, add this, couple lines of code to your app. Boom. Now your AR app that you made for the phone works on the smart glasses. And so within months, I believe they will have tens of thousands of apps for this thing. And so I think it's really going to be very, I don't know. I think it's where we talk about how we all kind of like live in our own sort of little worlds now. I think then you truly are going to have people like, they're going to be seeing shit that you don't see. I mean, we are truly going to be in our own fucking like worlds here.
So let me on that. Who inspires you? Like, it could be fine artists, it could be movie directors, it could be graphic designers. Like, is there anybody's work, living or dead, that really inspires you right now, or has inspired your work so far?
To be honest, that's such a tough question for me.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many people whose work sort of like inspires me, and I'm constantly looking to see and trying to find things that are things I haven't seen before. And so it really it's rather than kind of like one person, it's like a little mix of like a bunch of different people's work, and that's what I think is really so exciting about Web3 is this space. Like everybody's going in different directions, kind of. They're all sort of similar in a way, but people are using it for so many different things. You guys are using this technology for wearable fashion, which is very different from what I'm using this technology for kind of digital art. And I think it's cool to be able to sort of like see the kind of like overlaps between those, and okay, that's cool, I never thought about like doing that, or sort of having people mint something like that and being able to sort of transfer it and kind of change it, this or that. There's just so many different things that people are working on with this technology that it feels super exciting. And I think things are going to continue to progress super, super fast, because it's just this mixing pot of ideas, and everybody is so open with what they're working on. I think that, to me, it just feels like such a crazy Renaissance moment. That there's not one person. It's just like, I'm inspired by like the whole like creative output of like the community.
Yeah, no, we said it earlier how we've met over the last 2 years, but it's put me in the room with some of my heroes, the technology and just the simple NFT conversation, because people want to understand it. And I don't know, I remember taking a wild photo with you last year, like a wild one, right, over at Guy's house. And I was curious, is there anybody who you've encountered that has blown your mind? Like, you're just like, what the fuck is going on right now through this new kind of world?
Tons of people. Yeah, I completely feel the same way. I was at a party a year ago, I guess. Yeah, it wasn't even that long ago, like a year ago. And I'm like just standing there kind of like by myself, just sort of taking it all in. And a guy walks up to me. He's like, "Hey, my name's Darren Aronofsky. I know you're like Beeple or whatever." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, just one of my absolute all-time favorite directors. It was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, just walks up to me at a party and like introduces himself. It's like, oh my God, what in the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a legend. I mean, and I haven't seen The Will yet, but I want to check that out. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, super good.
Yeah, I gotta see it. So, I know we're kind of getting close to the end, but a couple other questions. And Sean, I saw you jumped on. Sean, we were talking earlier. People worked on a collection with Louis Vuitton, spring summer 2019.
Love that.
And a lot of it it was a lot of everydays. No, it wasn't the everydays. It was the open right? It was just work you'd already been doing.
Yep.
No, it was everydays, and they were basically just took a selection of the everydays, and they were kind of like, can you just put the Louis Vuitton logo in these things? Like, barely.
Love that.
Yeah.
So we got to find that. I want to go and grab a bunch of the.
I feel like
I'm going to race people on this Spaces who are probably already out there sourcing it, but we got to go grab some pieces. We got to get some for Beeple because he doesn't have any, but we got to get some for our collection.
Wow,
I would love to. Actually, I've got a question here for Sean. So these pieces that you make, the vintage pieces, I don't really know anything about sort of that whole kind of like scene. So you make those pieces yourself, or you're
I'm just finding them. I'm just like sniffing them out. You know what I mean? Like,
I thought some of the pieces were like vintage stuff, like kind of like made sort of like collage together, or sort of.
Like the embroidered jeans and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, the embroidered jeans, like the fruit and veggie ones. Yeah, I did that on vintage Levi's. We did, new embroideries on it. But a lot of the vintage from my actual collection that we're launching with MNTGE is all of pre-existing vintage that, in my opinion and others, is typically like a one-of-one piece. A lot of things that have been like personalized, customized, worn for 30 years and been through this or that. And so it's just stuff with like an immense amount of depth and character that even if I wanted to recreate, I would probably have trouble recreating them in their physical sense anyways.
Sure.
So that was immediately my excitement was like, holy shit, I've been holding on to these forever. I've been trying to find a high level enough of production to produce them. I'm not finding it. Okay, this is my chance, is with digital fashion, is the only way I can bring these to life and continue to put them in people's hands. And so, that's what got me pretty excited, is having this as a tool.
That's very interesting. Like these items as sort of like collector's piece. Do you know, like, say you find an old, again, I don't fucking know, like an old AC/DC shirt or
You're
something.
talking like provenance.
Yeah, like, well, not so much provenance, but do you know, like, okay, let's say you find some, old AC/DC shirt.
Yep.
Do you have any way of looking up, okay, how many of these are out there? Is this one of 1,000 or is this one of 150,000?
There's not really a database for it yet, but there's a bunch of different collectors and vintage people who like have almost like spoke on this. So it's like, some people have seen X amount, or maybe like, there's this, there was a company that called themselves Mosquito Head in the 80s and 90s who were like hand printing these tour shirts and just like, Ramones shirts, whatever. And we've always wondered, they've always been highly collectible. They go for thousands of dollars. And since they're each handmade, everyone always assumed like, okay, each of these is a one of one, but we always wondered how many of each graphic were produced. Sure. In recent years, someone has come more in the public eye who used to do the printing for Mosquito Head. And he's one of the only people who have like kind of come out the woodwork and been like, oh, wait, I was printing those shirts. Yeah, we only printed 100 of that Ramones one. Oh, wow. The one with the giant penis and balls on it, we only did 3 of those or something like that. And so immediately after this dude kind of came out and started sharing knowledge with it, the tees, they absolutely dried up on the market. They started going up in value. So yeah, we do find a lot of that information, but then there's also things like the denim jacket that you'll see on the MNTGE Instagram. It's literally the only one in the world. It's been customized, it's been personalized, and we can say for a fact that there's only one of those, which is pretty crazy, And so I tend to look for, those characteristics, usually like fades or different wear, things like that happen naturally, really separate things as like one of one, or maybe one of a few that look like this. So yeah, and even with us from MNTGE, like that's a big part of it, is doing as much of the digging on the story as we can,
That's super interesting. Yeah, and I think that's something that obviously with the blockchain and being able to sort of very quickly prove, that seems like it would be a massive game changer for this. There's no guessing how many of these are out there. Or is this a real one or somebody, fake?
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
It kind of starts like a registry for those items. You know what I mean? Where you're like, hey, I'm like a registered owner of this. Boom, I'm on the chain. Like, dude, check this out. Right in front of me right now, I'm sitting in front of a pair of jeans from somewhere between 1914 and 1918.
Wow.
The person that I got these from was the last person to touch them pretty much after they were left in the early 1900s. And so like, I just imagine if the blockchain had been around that long, for me to be third in line after 100 years and getting these jeans is like a really big deal. Yeah. And so it's like, that's where I'm seeing this immense value, because it's not just like 90s or new stuff. It's things that are 100+ years old that are going to be in a Smithsonian one day or some kind of museum. And for us to now have the opportunity to create this almost registry on the blockchain, it means so much for people in the future when these items then get put in, you know, a permanent archive and are in a museum. Then you can be like, holy shit, you know, I've got one of the digital ones that's in the Louvre now. Holy crap. You know, like, and that's a future where you don't see that play until 10 years or plus or 20 years. But when that play happens, it's a big fucking deal, you know?
100%. Yeah. I think that is a massive opportunity for this stuff. Wait, so where do you find a lot of this stuff?
Man, you know, usually I'm down to give through my secrets, but I travel like the whole world. And so I find them anywhere, really. I mean, I'm buying from a dude right now who literally goes into mines and digs out of a mine. Like, this dude has dug jeans out of the ground that were used by miners in the 1890s. And so I've found this like really phenomenal source that's really as close as you can get to the original owners, you know, and he's got that provenance because he can be like, dude, I dug this out of, you know, this mine in this town, in this city, in this part of America, you know? And so I love that, just the depth. But there's tons of people like him. There's people in other countries. I mean, it's like, it's really like this history through garments is so spread across the whole world, you know? Sure. And so you could go anywhere, any little pocket, and you can find this crazy American workwear history or whatever it is. So
that's super interesting. That is super interesting.
I mean, you can task Sean sometimes and be like, you know, I was watching a documentary on the Steve Wozniak Us Fest that happened in the 80s. Have you heard about that?
No.
It might have been late 70s, or was it early 80s?
No, it was 80s. It was like in the early 80s. And so Steve Wozniak was like, I wanted to create this like Woodstock inspired festival in San Francisco, and it was massive, huge bands. Like, you know, I brought it up before. And I was and after I saw it, I was like, hey, Sean, have you heard about this? And I'm not joking, he pulled up a t-shirt in his office that was a Us Fest concert tee from that 1 year, you know? And I was like, so we all have these special moments of these items that resonate with us. And, you know, how can we think digitally? I think one other thing, Mike, that I'll put you on the spot with is, you know, for us, it's like, how do we work with designers and artists and Web3 artists, and to do inks, right? To create dynamic wearability, right? So you could see a day where there's a Beeple ink, right? And that could be reflective of like an everyday you did, or maybe it's Tucker Carlson's dick on a t-shirt or something. You know what I mean? So it could be something like that.
I think if there's a project where we can get Tucker Carlson's dick on a t-shirt, I am down. I am fucking down.
I am in.
I feel like if that's not the promise of Web3, I don't know what is.
We got some. Let's go. I think that Minpass just went crazy.
I'm dying right now.
That's so funny, man. So again, I know you probably were running up an hour, man, but you know what? I know you also, like, I realize that you've got some charcoal and you've got some physical pieces as well. Are you doing a lot of art outside of the digital space? And then, you know, you've been touring, you've been around the world, right? Art Basel, and I'm sure the various other art conferences in the world. How do you feel navigating this sort of fine art world these days?
It's quite interesting. Yeah, we definitely are making a bunch of sort of like pieces. I am not doing the sort of like charcoal. It's, you know, we'll leave that to the sort of people who've spent their life perfecting that sort of like craft. But to me, it's sort of, it's about sort of finding what is the way to bring these ideas, because I think people are so focused on the like NFT portion of it. It's like, well, what is the actual idea behind the artwork? Because the artwork is not the NFT. The artwork is the ideas in the images that you've made. And so to me, it's sort of like, what is the way to take those ideas and make them more impactful through a physical sort of like object? And so we've done prints, we've done paintings, we've done charcoal drawings, we've done pastels, we've done all kinds of things. And to me, that's really exciting, because it's just not something that I ever thought about as a digital artist. You didn't think about, you know, how big should this piece physically be? Like, that's, you know, it's on a fucking screen. It'll be a whatever big screen whoever's watching it. So I think it brings up a lot of different things that to me are just very interesting new ideas I've not thought about. In terms of navigating the fine art world, that that has been with my particular brand of art, that has been very interesting. But I've been very lucky to find some people who are very strong supporters and people who are you know, really truly believe in this stuff. But I think the thing that people maybe don't realize in the sort of Web3 space, I think there's a lot of people who think, oh, we were at Christie's and we had the sale, and like, you know, now we're just accepted as part of the fine art world and sort of, you know, we're good to go. And it's like, that's not the case. I promise you that. Most people in the traditional art world still think this is like complete bullshit. And so we do still have kind of a ways to go there in terms of changing people's minds here. And I think it's happening much quicker than I thought. But I think it really does take people, you know, taking the time to educate people about this stuff and show them the work in the space that is, you know, thoughtful and is, you know, something where people are trying to make work that truly stands the test of time versus just turning a quick buck on some, you know, XYZ fucking bullshit. And so I think there's a lot of work still to do there. But to me, this is, you know, once we are truly part of the kind of canon of art history here, like, that's it. There's no going back. And so I think we're on that path. I think we've still got a ways to go.
No, I think you're doing a good job of it, man. I think like you know, between the human ones and a lot of the work that I've gotten to see in the space that I can't wait to see in South Carolina. Like, I think you guys are pushing it forward and combining the two narratives between fine art and between NFTs. And I think honestly, people take you seriously, man. I do. I think in the, you know, outside of this kind of small room, there's a lot of people that know your name and take your work seriously. So I'm looking forward to watching you continue to push the envelope and do stuff that's amazing. And the everydays just keep them flowing, man. But, you know, again, man, I know you. The last question is, you've been playing a lot of Dookie Dash.
I haven't played Dookie Dash, but I have definitely watched many videos of people playing it. And like, what the fuck is like? I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, are these people like fucking robots? How the fuck are they doing this? It just seems like impossible. And it's like, how in the fuck can you think that fast and react that fast to this shit? Like, it is. Yeah,
I've tried it. It's so hard, but you know, it's weird. It took me back to being
so
15.
hard.
But you know what's great? It did. I have to say there was an experience I had playing it that brought me back to being 15. Because I haven't been a good gamer for the last decade, but I went through a phase when I was super into it, especially when I was young. And I remember where you play over and over and over, and you get better and better and better, and these little nuances and these movements. And I started to play it the other day. Like sitting in the corner of my house, and before I knew it, like 2 hours had gone by and I couldn't quit. I was fully immersed and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to tackle this thing. The problem is I hit a relatively good score, but then I looked around and realized I was still really mediocre in comparison to the people who are either pro gamers or dedicating their lives to this. So
people are going ape shit on that. People are definitely like, you know, really freaking going at that thing. I think I think it's such a like interesting idea, and I think you know, the idea of like a skill-based mint, I think, is something that is very interesting, and I think that is something that there's a lot to sort of like explore there, and a lot of different things that you could do with that concept. So I'm very excited to see where they continue to take that with these kind of like skill-based mints. And I think it perfectly ties into this sort of rise of, you know, gamers being, you know, sort of the esports revolution here, and people who are, you know, if you are very, very good at video games, that is certainly a viable career option now, which was, you know, is just unimaginable to a kid like me growing up playing this stuff, that people would be, you know, paid massive sums of money, you know, if they were very good at video games. And so I think having these skill-based mints, I think is a really exciting new sort of idea that I'm excited to see where people take that.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna get wild, and hopefully I'm looking forward to like the Beeple game. Yeah, it'd be a gnarly game.
That would be a gnarly game. That would be a gnarly game.
A lot of Sam Bankman-Fried references. This has been amazing. I think one thing you said that just kind of resonated with me was talking to Steve Aoki at one point. He was talking about being a DJ when, you know, technology and innovation sort of favored the DJ, and there was this explosion and all these, you know, this kind of rise to fame for people who were essentially in the background of music for a long time.
Yeah.
And how this moment has done that for the graphic designer. When you thought like last year's NFT moment, and how all of a sudden these artists who, you know, I talk about a lot, like, you know, I grew up on, you know, listening to hip hop records, and those artists, those graphic designers, you know, who did the EPMD record cover or the Beastie Boys record cover, an artist like Say Adams, who I've had the pleasure of meeting now. Like these were iconic pieces, and these were heroes to me that I didn't know about till later. And now to see them get celebrated because technology is favoring this type of art is really exciting to me, and the exposure that it's giving, you know, people like yourself and Fuck Render and, you know, a handful of other guys. I think it's just a really cool moment.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's something that has been a long time coming, but I think the recognition that this artwork, to your point, like it is super iconic, and it is like when you think about the Chronic or you think about, you know, any of these things, you immediately picture the album art first, and so you immediately have a visual to go along with that. And I think having you know, those people who sort of visual artists who create this stuff get, you know, more recognition, to me is just super exciting, and something that I honestly didn't see coming in my lifetime, to be honest.
Is there a piece of is there a record cover or a work you did in your previous life that is the one for you that really kind of resonates with you?
I did a lot more concert visuals than album art. I would say probably the most kind of like prominent album art that I did was the Evolve Imagine Dragons album art, which to me was like, we went through a million freaking revisions, and it was like, and we got so close, and the fucking labels like up my ass, like, we need this fucking album art, we've got a fucking million things, we've got this tie-in with Target, and they've got a fucking 16 billion end caps that they need to make this shit for, like, we got to get it done. And it's like, guys, I would get it done right now. It's the band is like freaking keeps changing their mind on this shit. And like last second, like fucking literally like 10 o'clock at night, they're like up my ass to get this like thing done.
There, we lose it.
Completely. Oh. You hear me?
You're back. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Sorry. Yeah, my time limit for Twitter for the fucking screen time thing. Yeah.
I broke you tonight. I'm
more
Twitter.
It's
an honor.
But yeah, he came up with a completely different sort of like idea, which was based on one of the everydays that I did. He's like, oh, what if we just took this every day and like tweaked it slightly? And it was like, oh fuck, that's like the fucking thing. And perfect. And it came out this sort of like guy floating, and there's sort of this kind of like rainbow beam, which to me, you know, one of my absolute all-time favorite albums of all time is Dark Side of the Moon. So to me, it felt like a kind of little homage to that in terms of this sort of prism-y type.
Yeah. I see it. It's funny. I didn't know you did this one, and now that I see it, like clearly, because I know it, and I think a lot of people who are going to see it are going to realize right now they know it. So clearly that the work speaks volumes, man. So people, you are the man. Next time I see you, I'm going to be decked out in Louis Vuitton, people.
There it is, dude. There it is. Well, it's women's clothing, so
Man, come on, I will be it. You'll see me in the fly.
I'm doing it.
Blouse. I love you. I appreciate you. I definitely want to keep talking. I want to keep showing you what we're doing. I want your advice as we build this thing, and anything that we can do to continue to support. I don't know if you have any parting words, or is anything you want to shout out, or is anything you're doing. Feel free to use the mic.
I don't know. I think, March 11th, that's the next big thing. Very excited to sort of see everybody out here and show off what we've been working on, and show a bunch of other dope artist works.
Is there an NFT drop to be expected anytime soon? Or are you kind of just like, I'll wait on all that?
I've been very conscious about sort of supply. And I think that's something that I think is going to come into play as the market matures. And so I've been super tight with that. You can always put out more supply, but once it's out there, you can't take it back. And so I think my advice to people is to sort of make sure they kind of understand what they're getting in with that. And I think, especially, right now in what appears to be open edition season 2.0, which the last one did not end so well. So I think I just hope people are making sure and sort of very cognizant of this supply. And once it's out there, it's out there. So,
we do have a Tucker Carlson ink to work on. So we do have some work. We have some work to do. So I appreciate you. And I don't know if Brennan or Sean, you'd like to say anything. I want to shout out to everybody who continues to support Weekly, to the Fashion Fund and Future. We kind of take it everywhere. If you're a Vintage Pass holder, we're excited because you've been supportive of us, and you've shown through with the Mint Pass. We are launching I'm going to be premature, but we're launching our Sean collection, our drop, our next drop for pass holders on the 7th. That'll be the sale, and then there'll be a claim after that. But that's going to be really fun, and you're going to get to see what we can build and what we can do. And I hope we can bring value to you, and I hope we can change, help disrupt an entire industry of fashion and streetwear, and make really cool, digital collectibles. So, stay with us. But I don't know, Sean, you want to say anything? Brennan, you guys want to say anything before we jump?
I'll just say everything will be on Discord in a little bit. So for everybody that's wondering what's all going on, it'll all be right in Discord, and then socials will follow up tomorrow morning. So no stress. We'll have all of it. It'll be super clear, super concise, and everybody, it'll be right in front of you. So appreciate everybody. We're really looking forward to it.
Sean, how about you? You want to say peace?
Yeah, Beeple, it was dope to meet. Your work is fucking sick. And apologies to everyone for showing up late. Super sorry. That's
man.
it. Thanks.
We handled it. Don't
dope.
worry.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah, shout out everyone.
Shout out Todd Kramer. I see you. Sergito, Rachel, Black Dave, Joe. I see a bunch of people I follow, man. Nux. Let's keep it going. People, we'll talk soon, all right?
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody who listened here, and super excited.
Peace, love, and soul. We're out.
Awesome.
Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!